All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Mindset Talk, where we take a look at the mental approach needed to overcome challenges and reach goals in business, health, and in life. Today, I'm very excited because I have someone here who's been a top performing real estate agent for 16 years. I've got to know him personally, and one of the things that has jumped out to me over those years is how effortlessly he seems to balance his family time and his business. He quietly goes about his work each day and really puts up some huge numbers year after year very consistently. So I was really excited when he agreed to come on because I know we can learn a lot from him. With all that being said, I'd like to welcome Greg Winegarden from Minnesota. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate you having me on the show today. Excited to be here with you and podcast it up.
Awesome, man. Thanks for being here. So we have a lot to talk about. I want to dive right into it. So you've been an agent 16 years. What got you in the business initially?
So yeah, I dove into real estate when everyone was diving out in 2008. I was fortunate enough to have an older brother kind of, pave the path for me in the real estate business. He and I were very close, still are. And, I did what he did. Our dad was a military dad, so we traveled around every couple of years. I was actually born in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, on the Air Force Base, Northeast there by you. And so whenever my brother did something, I did something. So, he got into real estate. And so I finished college and said, well, let's do some real estate. So didn't really know what I was getting into, but very fortunate and glad I did. And, it's been a great career so far.
Awesome. Well, so you looked up to your older brother and he kind of paved the way and you saw he had a little success. And it sounds like you're both very regimented. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. With our dad being a military dad, and then we both were in sports, I played collegiately, he played professionally. I'm still the better athlete, but, as you prepare for a sporting event, it's the same thing here in the real estate business or any business that for that matter. You need to prepare properly in order to perform well. And so, it's just been part of the plan. And, I have a real estate coach, that helps with that. And so it's been vital to my success so far.
Yeah, that consistency, that discipline really adds up over time. So it sounds like you had that going for you in the beginning, which not everybody does. So kudos to you there. So just to give the audience a little background, what has been your biggest year in terms of transaction?
So, that's interesting because there's always the conversation between transaction volume and income volume.
Sure.
I'm in an area where, my average sale price is 700,000. So I have the great fortune of being able to do a little bit less and still make a great living. Last year, I closed 55 deals and made, my gross GCI was 860.
Amazing. I mean, that's a lot of transactions at any level. 50 plus is a high level. Wow. Okay. Now, what is the goal for this year, 2024?
So this year, income goal's $1 million.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm trending there currently. So very, very grateful for that. And that would be about 75 transactions.
Awesome. Good. So you're doing a high level of volume. Now, are you doing this by yourself? Do you have help, a team?
Yeah, good question. So I've historically always had a full-time assistant to handle, the paperwork, phone calls, keeping me on track, that sort of thing. Interestingly enough, I have not had an assistant as of late. So I've done a lot of this production this year with me and my wife. My wife, Jen, is also a realtor, but she's also a full-time mom. So she is only in the office helping me 25% of her time.
Gotcha.
So, but I have a new full-time assistant license starting here very soon. And, we'll look forward to finishing the year strong. So.
Awesome. So you do have some support. with your wife and the assistant in the past, and now hopefully again. But it sounds like you're doing a lot of the heavy lifting on your own.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a people guy. I've been in the business long enough where I'm not interested in just doing another deal.
Yeah.
I want to, I believe, and I believe a lot of my success has been because I've built strong relationships,
Yeah.
with my clients and friends and family and, people that, have supported me over the years. And so, I'm interested in going deeper versus wider when it comes to the relationship part of the business, just so that, my goal is to do such a good job and serve so well that all the clients will send everybody they know when it comes to buying and selling real estate, versus the turn and burn, approach, which, hey, everybody has their plan. So
I love it, and I would argue that's probably why you had so much success here in such a tough market. It's really no secret. The past couple years have been challenging for a lot of agents across the country, from the low inventory to the rapid increase in interest rates to the attack on our industry at some levels in the media. A lot of agents have thrown in the towel, or the ones that have stayed have seen a huge decrease in production. Have you seen a downturn here recently? Have you been able to stay steady, go up? How's this affected your business these past couple of years?
it's interesting. It's when there's adversity in anything, you have two ways to respond. Give up and quit, or look it in the face and go after it. And through all the great coaching, my accountability partners, my mastermind groups, my great wife, my brother, he's talked me out of quitting real estate many times. Hasn't recently, but it's just one of those things where you just have to do what works, and it's the simple basics. You have to talk to people. You need to pre-qualify. You need to, be a good presenter. And so it's all those things that I've just continued to practice and rehearse and improve on, that while with confidence, while most of the industry is shaking in their boots.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah. It sounds like you've kept to the fundament. Not only have you kept to the fundamentals, but you really have a good support system around you to help you stay on track as well, which I don't think everyone has either. And it can be easy to get kind of caught up in whatever's going on in the world if you don't have that. So that's great, man. That's great.
Just sticking to the basics. I mean, it's really simple. It's talk to people, sell them on why they should use you through your value proposition.
Yep.
Provide great service, close the deal, do it again.
Yeah.
And along the way, have some fun. So
love it. Don't overcomplicate it. Yeah. Don't overcomplicate it. And you've already talked a little bit about how diving into that relationship has really helped you too, and focusing on that. So that's amazing. So where does most of your business come from now? Sounds like a lot of database, or?
Yeah. So my first sale in real estate in 2008 was a FSBO.
Oh, cool.
First sale ever. And so I can't use that as an excuse that I can't sell FSBOs, because it was my first one.
Yep.
But it has, I've worked all the different sources, from FSBOs, expireds, just listed, just solds, and then, the database. Most of my business now is referrals from database and past clients. So that's most of my business, but, still generating from the other sources as well.
Is it still part of your daily routine? Are you still hitting expireds, FSBOs, even with the majority of your business coming from database?
Yep. So I try to hit 3 to 4 different sources every morning. Awesome. From my prospecting usually starts around 8:30. Summertime, I'll admit, is a little bit more relaxed. The kids are home, and we have breakfast. But from 8:30 to about noon, on the phones, dialing and hitting all the different sources, just to create some leverage. So I'm not counting on one source.
Yeah, I love that. I think it allows us to be better agents too, and come from a better place when we're able to have different sources and different things in the pipeline as well. All right, great. So how does that break down in terms of listing sales versus buyer sales for you? You know, guesstimate year to year.
I'm around, usually historically I'm 65, 70% listings,
Okay, good.
30, 35% buyers.
And I would imagine that's what helps you do so many transactions, you know, with such a small
Mhm.
support staff with just your
Right.
wife and the
Yep.
admin, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and my market, now I'm working a market that is, mostly on one side of town. The buyers that I work are, great clients, referrals, repeat customers, things like that. And so I'm not necessarily, I'm not paying for, Zillow leads and buyer leads and things like that. So I'm not
Great.
running around the city, 40, 50, 60 minutes away. So that's been helpful as well to really maximize my efficiency with the time and working with both buyers and sellers.
Good, good. So you're super intentional with the buyers that you do work with. Um, was it always this way? You've been in the business 16 years. So did you always kind of have this mindset where you'd have a 70-30, 65-35 listings, or how was it?
No, I would take anything I could get when I first started.
Okay.
you know, it's kind of a cool story. My first year in real estate, I sold one home,
Oh, wow. I didn't
one
know that.
home. And, that was a short sale that started out as a FISBO. And, we had a great thing going with a short sale company back in those days. And then from there, it just snowballed. I sold one home that year. The next year was 12. The next year after that, so the increments, got bigger and bigger until I got to that point of doing 40, 45, 50 deals, and then have kind of, stayed in that, 50 to 60 range. So,
Wow. Well, let's talk about that. I actually didn't know that. So one deal your first year, right? And then you went to 12. That's a pretty big
yep.
jump. I think I've seen a lot of agents do one deal in their first year and they get disappointed and may actually leave. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
agents do that in our industry. What, I know you mentioned your brother. It helped in the beginning, but was there anything else that kind of kept you in the game early there and then helped you go from 1 to 12? That's a big jump.
Yeah. So, all the credit to my brother, Eric, for keeping me in the game.
Gotcha.
Because I was defeated. I was, discouraged, and, he kept me in the game. And during that time, I continued to, practice my skills, learn the market. I was fresh out of college. I didn't know real estate. And so, you know, thank God I did one deal because I didn't know anything about real estate.
Right.
Um, and so, it just was part of my process was to go through the grinder
Yep.
and stay in the game, and just keep going. And, as part of that now, all those years and hours of practice and, grinding on the phones and door knocking and doing all the things, it's paid off. So,
Good for you, man. Well, good for you for sticking through those early years. Those are tough. And you said you took anything you got back in the beginning, which is smart. You know, as a
yep.
new business owner, that's what you do. You're hustling, you're grinding, you're going to take anything that's thrown at you. Um, how did you make the shift, or why did you make the shift to determining you were really going to go more listing heavy in your business?
Well, as I continued in my career and then also, got married, had one child, had a second child, had a
Yep.
third child, it really came down to, just being able to, focus in one area because of time. I didn't have the time to drive an hour to a listing, to go look at a FISBO, or an expired, that was a 50-50 shot.
Right.
And so I was fortunate enough to be able to have some success and then kind of dial in on my, uh, location of where I wanted to work.
Yeah.
And in that process too, I chose an area that had higher price points,
Sure.
so that you have a higher return on your investment.
Yeah, smart. So you really focused in on, sounds like you focused in on, say, your 20%, right? The
Yep.
things that working best for you, and really narrowed in on that at that point in your business. That's great. All right, so let's get into the mindset a little bit here. As a top producer you are, we know there's rejection. We already talked about that. We know there's deals that fall apart. Like once you get beyond that one deal, you get to 12. Now all of a sudden there's deals that are falling apart, right? There's clients who might be upset. Do you do anything day to day, now or then, really, anything that stands out to you as a habit that you believe really helps you navigate these challenges that inevitably do come up in our business?
Yeah, I mean, it's, as sales and service, people, it's at the top of our list to provide a good experience. And so, part of how I navigate the ups and downs, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So not every sale is going to go smoothly.
Right.
I just try to, future pace my clients as to, what could happen, what has happened. Here's how we handle it if this happens, and just set the proper expectations.
Yeah.
And then if something happens, hopefully we've already kind of addressed that with the client. And we just keep, moving forward. What keeps me going is, continually reviewing goals, reviewing my why. When things get hard, I think of the photos of my kids and my wife. Yep. And, that just, there's days I want to throw in the towel early if I haven't set an appointment or whatever it may be. And I turn and look at my kids on the wall, and, that just, what would my daughter think if I just quit right now? What example would that be for her?
Right.
So my family really is a big motivator for me.
That's great, man. It sounds like you have a strong why, like you said, that I think everyone needs something, and it could be different for different people, but that gets you through those challenging spots. And having it somewhere as a reminder, it sounds like, is what you do, which is just a little simple thing that can keep you going because like everybody's mind is gonna try to talk them out of doing what you're supposed to be doing at some point in the day or the week or the month, right? So
right. Yeah, and I'm a big faith guy. I believe in Jesus Christ, and it's when times get tough, I know He has a plan, and this is just part of that plan, and just continuing to trust the plan, and just continue down the process. So that's why having a mastermind group and accountability partners. It reminds me of a verse in Proverbs. It's 27:17, where it's iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. And that just calling on that verse just really helps propel me forward as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing it alone. I'm not here alone. Everybody in this business is going through the same process.
I've heard you say it a couple of times too, keep moving forward. And it sounds like you did that in the beginning. It sounds like you have that same philosophy now. And I think it's really good advice, because you can't lose if you keep moving, right? You only lose if you stop. So
you only lose if you quit.
That's right, man. That's terrific. Good. Well, I think everyone and I think we've probably touched on a couple of these, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Everyone has one or two, I think, special qualities or unique ability, whatever you want to call it, that helps them in the business or in life. What do you think for you? What do you think that unique ability is?
I believe that, I'm a very patient guy. And so it can be a pro or a con for me at times. Sure. But mostly it's helped propel me and kind of keep my business, growing, trusting the process, if I'm not getting better as fast as I wish I have, or, income hasn't grown as much as I want it to grow. Working with clients, every client's different. Some are, very quick, let's go now. Some need time and think. So my patience has kind of provided me with some versatility to, manage my sales business throughout the whole process here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're not rushing things. You're there to serve, and provide great
Yep.
service. It sounds like, and that really starts to snowball in the long run, as it has for you.
Yeah.
I know in conversations with you in the past, obviously your business is important to you. At the same time, I know it's just one part of your life. You've already mentioned your family and how important that is. How do you balance that? Being a business owner and doing that well, and then, being there for your family and other interests and hobbies that you have.
It's tough. It is a challenge. And, I think there are very few people who can say that, as a realtor or a team leader, whatever that title may be, that they shut it down and don't think about it, don't look at it, don't work on it, after hours.
Yeah.
I think that number is very small.
Yeah.
So, it's a work in progress for me, but for us, our family meal is breakfast.
Oh, cool.
We actually switch it because we're all home. There's less distractions. There's not much going on. And then we all get out the door. Come the evenings, our kids are all in different sports and I have appointments, things like that. So it's a much more chaotic schedule.
Yeah.
So that's, we as a family kind of reversed the family time.
Yeah.
So that we can be together with some more focused and not so distracted time. So, and the nice thing about our business is, we can step out, I can step out, go have lunch with one of my kids at school and then come back and, things like that. So it's, the freedoms that we can have in our business is nice.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it. And really a few things there that I thought were cool. Being flexible. You already mentioned how your versatility is a little bit of a strength for you before, and being flexible. And nighttime is tough. Anybody with a family or a parent knows you're running around. You got one parent doing one, the other parent doing the other. Everybody's everywhere. You can't even breathe. But that morning time can be quiet, and you can actually think and be more present than at night when things are on your mind. So what a great idea, man. So being flexible with the family is huge.
And one thing that, that I cherish with my kids is windshield time. So when we have sports to go to, I try and put my phone away, try not to answer calls and do anything, at a stoplight, whatever it may be, and just be with my kid or kids who are in the car or a kid and their friend, because that's the moment and the conversations and the things that you can't make those up. They're not scripted. Those are it's just raw relationship. And that's what I look forward to is windshield time. So I'm hoping my kids slow down and don't start driving anytime soon.
Yeah. it's you got them trapped there. So you got to talk. They got to answer your questions, right?
Exactly.
No, that's good, man. That's really good. All right. So 16 years in the business is a long time. You've seen a lot. What would you say has been your biggest challenge here in the past 16 years, business-wise?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question. For me personally, it would probably be scaling past that, 75 deal mark, getting to the 100 deal mark, because it requires a little bit different of a setup. You got to hire a buyer agent and things like that, I believe.
Yeah.
So, part of what I've worked on over the years is letting go of some control, by hiring an assistant. But once I've let that go, it has then propelled me to do more.
Right.
So that's the biggest challenge probably for me is getting past, getting to that 100 deal mark in transactions.
Is that a goal of yours to get to that 100 deal mark?
I don't know, because, I had a goal to increase my, average sale price over the last couple of years. And I took it from 400 to almost 7.
Amazing.
So is it important to get the transaction number or more the GCI number?
Yeah.
So that's something I'm always chewing on, praying about, and, looking for, just seeking out direction for. So.
Sure. Well, it sounds like one way or another you've grown
Yep.
up to this point, and now it's kind of deciding which way you want to go from here. What do you think keeps you motivated and on the horse and getting to work each day?
What's really motivating for me now is that, I've had some success. I'm very fortunate and grateful for that. And now I want to, really look at deploying some capital into investments, and basically starting another business, which is the investment side of things. So that's what really excites me and energizes me today is building that portion of our real estate business.
Love it. Kind of that next stage. And there's so many ways to have success in this business and do it right? Whether it's investing or your sales business or a team, right? And you just got to find for you what is motivating. And it sounds like you've really kind of niched in on a few things. Your family, the investing side is really keeping you going. As we wrap up here, what advice, I always ask this question at the end, what advice would you give to people watching who are stuck in that plateau or who are maybe going backwards or feeling like they want to give up? Maybe not even business, right? It could be their health or anything that's going on in their life. What advice would you give to that person?
It's a good question, and, a couple things is, stay in the game, stay in the game and continue to sharpen your skills and your craft. If you're not getting better, you're getting passed up.
Yep.
So continue to work on improving your presentation skills, your service, customer service and whatnot, and surround yourself with people who are going to elevate your game. Find the right people who are going to come alongside you, and live out that iron sharpens iron, mentality where, if you're struggling one day, you've got a guy or a gal that can, boost you up, and get you done. So, that would be the big thing is being surrounded by people that are like-minded and want to see you achieve.
That's a big one, man. I just even think about when I was younger and playing like high school sports and stuff. That's always what motivated me. Like you'd find the person that was better than you, and then you try to do some of the things that they did, right? To your point about iron sharpens iron, it's so huge, like who you surround yourself with and trying to get better. So good, man. Well, listen, I want to thank you for providing so much value to our community today. What's the best way for people to connect with you if they have questions about Minnesota real estate?
Yeah. You can call me directly. I'm a kind of a traditional guy. I prefer a phone call. I like talking to people, learning about who you are, what you do. So you can call me directly or text me 952-484-1027. You can email me, greg@gwgrealty.com. Or you can also look us up on all the social media platforms as well.
Awesome, man. Well, we are out of time today. If anyone listening wants more information, you can send me a DM or shoot me an email, cthomesbyrobert@gmail.com. My team and I are always looking to collaborate and happy to answer any questions. Thanks again, Greg. It was great having you, man.
Rob, appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Awesome. Have a great weekend, everybody.